Zarn woke to a world of dust and silence. His small body trembled as he sat up among the broken stones and twisted metal of his home village. The sky above was a dull gray, heavy with ash that fell in slow, silent sheets. He held his thin arms close, trying to keep warm. His green skin felt cold where the wind touched him. He blinked and saw empty buildings all around. No one moved. No voices called his name. Memories of laughter and song haunted his mind. He remembered running through soft fields of glowing flowers with his parents. He remembered his mother's gentle voice when she called him to dinner. He remembered the warmth of his father's hand on his shoulder when he learned to use his legs. All these were gone now. The village was gone. His parents were gone. He pressed his cheek against a cool stone wall. Doubt rose in his mind. What had happened? He whispered a word from long ago. Mother? There was no answer. Just the wind and the falling ash. Zrn single quotes S stomach ached with hunger. He had not eaten for many sun cycles. The ash made it hard to find food. He searched the ground and found only shattered bits of lela that no one would eat. He tucked the petals into his satchel. He would save them in case he was desperate. His tiny hands shook. A strange sound echoed in the distance. Zarn froze. It sounded like heavy boots on broken metal. His heart pounded. Humans wore heavy boots. He had heard tales of humans from travelers. They were carnivores. They ate other beings to survive. The idea made Zarn shiver. He pictured himself on a plate. He pictured his own bones crunched under. A sharp blade. He pressed his back against the wall. He crouched low, hoping the ragged stones would hide him. The sound grew louder. Zarn peeked around the corner. There, through the haze of ash, he saw a human figure. She wore metal armor that gleamed in the gray light. Her helmet was off, revealing dark hair tied back. Her eyes were sharp, and she carried a large pack and a rifle over her shoulder. She moved slowly as if she searched for something. Zarn's breath caught in his throat. He had only seen humans in old holovids. They were tall and strong. Their teeth looked sharp in those videos. He trembled. The human paused and looked around. Zarn swallowed. He felt small and weak. He thought of running, but his legs felt like jelly. He could barely stand. He let out a soft sigh, and the sound drew her attention. Her head snapped toward him. Zarn froze. He shut his eyes and covered his ears, imagining her growl as she leaped toward him. But instead of a growl, she spoke in a calm voice. Hello? Is someone there? Zarn did not answer. His mouth felt dry. He peered through his fingers. The human knelt and lowered her rifle. She carried no blade that he could see. He wondered if she still planned to eat him. She held out her hand, palm up. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. Humans eat aliens, Zarn whispered, voice shaking. They eat us to survive. The human's brows drew together. She shook her head slowly. Not all humans, she said. I don't eat aliens. Zarn looked at her hand and then at her face. He saw concern in her eyes. He thought he saw a hint of kindness, but could he trust her? His body hunched forward. He rubbed his legs, still sore from hiding. He wondered how long he could wait here. The ash made it hard to breathe. He thought of his home, now gone forever. He took a small step forward. The human stayed still, keeping her distance. Zarn closed the gap, moving slowly. He could see the warm color of her skin and the careful way she kept her pack secure. He stopped a few feet away. The human spoke again. My name is Linda, Captain Linda Davis. I lead this scouting team. Are you alone? Zarn blinked. He had never met anyone named Linda. He had heard of leaders and captains. He nodded. I am alone. Linda glanced at the broken buildings. This was once a bustling village. Zarn's eyes filled with tears. He pointed to the ruins. Linda followed his gesture. Then she turned back to him. Do you need water? Food? Zarn nodded, unable to speak. Linda took a canteen from her pack and unscrewed the lid. She held it out. Zarn stared at the water inside. He hesitated. It looked like clear life. He dipped shaky fingers into the canteen and brought them to his mouth. The water was cold. It felt like warmth rolling down his throat. He drank until his stomach no longer twisted with pain. Then he handed back the canteen. Linda smiled gently. I have rations too, she said. She reached into her pack and withdrew a small packet of food. The packet felt rough and hard in Zarn's hand. He looked at it. He did not know what it contained. Linda gently tapped the packet. Trust me. Eat. Zarn unwrapped it. Inside was a soft, warm mash that smelled of sweet fruit. He took a small bite. The taste filled his mouth with warmth. He swallowed, then took another bite. Soon the packet was empty. He sat on a fallen beam, holding his full belly. He closed his eyes and breathed. Linda sat a short distance away but did not look away. After a moment, Linda spoke. You look hurt. Can I help? Zarn moved his hand to his left leg. There was a deep scratch that bled slowly. He had fallen when the village was attacked. Linda saw the blood. She rose and knelt beside him. She gently pressed a clean cloth against the wound. Zarn winced but did not move away. Linda tore a strip of cloth from her own shirt and wrapped it around his leg after cleaning it. This should help. Until we get you proper care, she said. Zar watched her work. He felt safe. No one had ever touched him kindly after the attack. He bit his lip and tried to speak. Why are you helping me? Linda looked at him. Because no one deserves to die alone. Zarn swallowed. He thought of his family. He thought of the ash that covered everything. He thought of the fear that had ruled his heart until now. He sat in silence for a long while. Linda remained nearby. Eventually Zarn stood. His legs felt steadier. He looked at the human woman. Linda stood too and offered him her hand. Zarn took it. He felt her strength. He wondered what would happen next. She smiled. Come on, let's get you back to camp. You can rest there. Zarn nodded and followed her through the gray ruins. Each step felt less heavy than before. He did not know this human yet, but he did not feel fear. He felt hope. Linda led Zarn through the pale gray landscape. The ash still fell, but it was less heavy now. Zarn's small hands gripped Linda's fingers, and he looked around with wide eyes. He had never seen so many humans together. They reached a raised platform made of metal and wood. Around it, tents and makeshift shelters stood like a small village. Lights glowed softly at the entrances. Zarn could see humans of all sizes moving about. Some carried tools. Others spoke quietly by fires. Linda guided Zarn up a ramp and into a large tent. Inside, the air felt warmer. A lantern hung from the ceiling, casting a golden glow on the simple furnishings. At one side, beds made of metal frames held blankets. At the other, tables were piled with supplies. ZARN single quotes SIs fell on a young man sitting by a table. He wore a faded uniform, and his boots were dusty. He looked up and saw Zarn. For a moment, suspicion crossed his face. Linda stepped forward. This is Zarn, she said softly. He needs a safe place. The young man rose slowly and approached. His footsteps were quiet on the tent floor. He studied Zarn's green skin and large eyes. Zarn tried not to tremble. What species is he? The man asked, voice low. Zellery, Linda replied. Orphaned when his planet fell. The man's expression hardened. He glanced at Linda's sidearm. Linda met his gaze. He is under my care? The man nodded, then smiled. I'm Marcus. I help with supplies and security. He crouched to be at Zarn's level. Hello, Zarn. Zarn looked into Marcus's eyes. They did not seem angry. They felt steady. Zarn nodded. Come, Marcus said. I'll show you where you will rest. He led Zarn through the tent. They passed a row of beds. Each bed had a small shelf for personal items. Zarn saw a few toys on one shelf, a wooden block, and a stuffed creature made of cloth. Marcus pointed to an empty bed. This is yours. Zarn nodded and touched the thin blanket. It was soft and smelled clean. He slid onto the bed and sat. Linda placed a hand on his shoulder. Rest here for now, she said. I will check on you soon. Zarn felt tired. He wanted to sleep. But he looked at Linda and hesitated. Will you come back? He asked. Linda knelt. Yes, I promise. She brushed a strand of hair from Zarn's face. Get some rest. Tomorrow I will introduce you to the others. Zarn lay down. His head rested on a small pillow. He closed his eyes and listened to the quiet murmur of the camp. Faint laughter, the soft clink of tools, the distant hum of a generator. He drifted into a light sleep. When he woke, the tent was dim. A lantern on the far side glowed softly. Zarn sat up and rubbed his eyes. He felt warmer than before. He sat on the edge of his bed, unsure what to do. The tent flap opened. Linda stepped in. She carried a small tray. On it were a bowl of thin soup, a piece of flatbread, and a cup of warm liquid. The steam rose in gentle curls. Breakfast, she said. She set the tray on the small table by Zarn's bed. Eat before it cools. Zarn looked at the bowl. The soup smelled of herbs and meat. He remembered the mash he ate with Linda. He reached for the spoon and lifted a small bite to his mouth. The flavor was mild but comforting. He ate more. Linda watched him. After Zarn finished, she took the bowl away and refilled his cup. That will help you gain strength, she said. Zar and drank the warm liquid. His throat felt better. Linda's communicator beeped. She pressed a button and spoke softly. Zarn did not understand her words, but Linda nodded. She looked at Zarn. I must go, she said, but I will be back. Zarn nodded. He watched Linda leave the tent. He felt a mix of relief and loneliness. He sat alone for a moment. Then he rose and stepped out of the bed. He walked across the tent and looked at a blank shelf above his bed. He wished he had something to call his own. He left the tent and stepped onto the platform. The camp bustled around him. Soldiers prepared for the day. Some trained with weapons. Others loaded crates onto vehicles. Car and stayed close to the tent. He held his hands behind his back and watched. He noticed a group of children playing near a stack of crates. They laughed as they chased each other. One of the children spotted Zarn. She stopped and stared. Zarn felt her eyes. He looked away, too shy to meet her gaze. The child walked over. She was small, about Zarn's size. Her hair was tied in two neat braids. She wore loose pants and a simple shirt. Hi, she said. Her voice was soft. Maya. Zarn looked at her. She did not seem afraid. He nodded. Zarn, Maya smiled. She touched his arm. Do you want to play? Zarn's eyes widened. He had not played with anyone in a long time. His heart leaped. He nodded. Maya grinned and ran a few steps away. She looked back. Catch me! She called. Zarn hesitated, then gave chase. His legs pumped, and he ran after. Maya! The ash dusted his feet as they sprinted across the platform. They laughed and ran until they were both out of breath. Zarn sat on the ground. Maya sat beside him. That was fun, Zarn said. Maya nodded. You're fast. Zarn smiled. He felt happy. The soldier's voice called Maya's name. Maya's mother appeared at the edge of the platform. The woman hurried over and scooped Maya up in her arms. Mom, Maya said. This is Zarn. The woman looked at Zarn. She studied his green skin and curious eyes. She frowned. Who are you, little one? She asked. Her voice was gentle but wary. I am Zarn, he said softly. The woman glanced at Maya. You made a friend. She looked back at Zarn. I am Kara, Maya's mother. Zarn held out his hand. Kara took it carefully. It is nice to meet you, Zarn, she said. What is your story? Kara asked. Zarn swallowed. My planet, he began. Then he shook his head. The memory stung. Kara knelt beside him. If you want, you can tell me later, she said. Zarn nodded. Kara looked at Maya. Let's go get Maya ready for school. Maya waved at Zarn as her mother carried her away. Zarn watched them go. He felt a warmth in his chest. He had met someone. Friendly, he decided to explore more of the camp. He walked past tents and vehicles. He saw people cooking, repairing gear, talking in small groups. He passed a table covered in tools. A woman sat there, sorting metal parts. She wore goggles and a tool belt. Zarn approached carefully. The woman looked up. Hello, Zarn said. The woman blinked. Hi there, she replied. She smiled kindly. I'm Rosa. I fix machines. Zarn looked at the parts. He bent down and picked up a small gear. He turned it in his hand. Rosa watched. You like machines? Zarn nodded. He had seen machines on his planet but never touched them. Rosa handed him another gear. Here, try this one, it fits here. She pointed to a device on the table. Zarn adjusted the gear. It clicked into place. Rosa pressed a button and the device whirred to life. It works! Rosa exclaimed. Zarn beamed with pride. Rosa patted his shoulder. You have a good hand. Zarn smiled shyly. Rosa turned to her work. Zarn stayed for a while, helping her sort parts. He felt useful. Later, Linda returned to the tent. She found Zarn asleep on his bed, clutching a small gear. Linda smiled and gently lifted him. She carried him to a bed and tucked him in. Zarn woke and saw Linda's face. Did you explore? She asked. Zarn nodded and held up the gear. Linda laughed softly. You made a friend and even helped Rosa. Zarn's eyes lit up. Yes. Linda sat beside him. You are safe here, Zarn. This is your new home. Zarn closed his eyes. For the first time since the attack, he believed it. He drifted to sleep, dreaming of the new family he found on this human camp. Zarn woke to the soft light of dawn. Through the tent flap, he saw the sky painted in pale pink and gold. The ash had slowed, and the air smelled faintly of earth. He sat up and stretched, then climbed out of bed. He held the gear Rosa had given him tightly in his small hand. He walked out of the tent and felt the warmth of the new day. People moved about the camp, preparing for their duties. Soldiers packed their gear, cooks lit fires, and the youngest children ran between tents. Zarn spotted Linda across the platform. She stood by a vehicle, checking maps and speaking into her communicator. Zarn approached quietly. Linda saw him and smiled. Good morning, Zarn, she said. Good morning, Zarn replied. He held out the gear. Rosa gave me this. Linda took the gear and examined it. She nodded. That's a stock part from our supply. You did well. She handed it back. Come with me. I want to show you something. They walked to the center of the camp where a large banner hung between two poles. On it was the emblem of their fleet, a circle surrounded by 3 stars. Nearby, a group of soldiers gathered around a crate. They spoke quietly and glanced at Zarn as he passed. Linda led him to a clear area. Today we will move out to collect more supplies on the next moon. You can come with us if you like? Zarn's eyes widened. He had never left the camp area. He nodded. I would like that, Linda smiled. Good, we leave soon. Let's get you some proper clothes first. She guided Zarn back to the tent where Marcus had set up a small closet. Inside were uniforms in various sizes. Marcus waited and held a folded uniform. This should fit, Marcus said. He handed the clothing to Zarn. Zarn took it and looked uncertain. I've never worn clothes like this. Marcus knelt. Try them on, we'll help. Zarn stepped behind a makeshift screen. He changed quickly, then stepped out. The uniform fit him snugly. It was dark and simple, with the fleet emblem on the shoulder. Perfect, Marcus said. You look like one of us. Zarn looked at Linda. She nodded in approval. They moved to the vehicle loading area. Several transport shuttles stood ready. Soldiers loaded boxes and crates onto a flatbed. Linda climbed into the driver's seat of a small rover. She patted the seat beside her. Hop in. Zarn climbed up and sat. He looked at the rover's controls. Buttons and levers sparkled in the morning light. Linda started the engine and the rover rumbled to life. She drove out of camp onto the dusty path. Zarn held tightly to the seat as they bounced along. Ahead lay the transport shuttles. Engineers directed ground crews. Zarn watched the activity with wide eyes. Linda parked near a cluster of crates. Soldiers stood guard around the area. One of them, a tall man with scars on his cheek, looked at Zarn and frowned. Who's the kid? The man asked. Linda closed her window. He's with us. The man glared at Zarn. I've seen Zilari before. They're tricksters. Linda's voice hardened. Not this one. He is under my protection. The man grunted and turned away. Zarn swallowed. He looked at Linda. She gave him an encouraging nod. Linda climbed down and opened the back of the rover. She took out several small crates of rations. She handed one to Zarn. Have a snack, she said. We'll be here a while. Zarn opened the crate. Inside were familiar mash packets, dried fruit strips, and a small can of juice. He ate the fruit strips and smiled. Linda watched him. "You're fitting in well," Zarn shrugged. "Everyone is kind." Suddenly a loud horn sounded. The transport shuttles lifted off. Dust swirled around the landing pads. Zarn's eyes followed the rising shuttles until they vanished in the sky. Linda guided Zarn to a work area. Engineers repaired a broken drone. Its wing was bent and its sensors flickered. CARN stepped forward. "Can I help?" he asked. The lead engineer, an older woman named Rosa, looked up. "You? Sure, hand me that spanner." Zarn retrieved the tool and held it out. Rosa took it. "Thanks. Now hold the wing steady." Zarn placed his hand on the drone's wing. It was cold metal. He kept it still as Rosa tightened bolts and replaced wires. The drone beeped as Rosa finished. Its lights glowed green. It took flight, circling above them. "Nice work," Rosa said, patting Zarn's shoulder. Zarn felt proud. He smiled at Linda, who returned the smile. They walked back to the rover. Linda started the engine and drove toward a rocky hill beyond. The camp. The hill was covered in strange silver plants. Their stems looked like metal rods. Some had spiky leaves. Others glowed faintly. Zarn stared in wonder. He had never seen such plants. Linda parked at the hill's base. She handed Zarn a small scanner. "We'll map these plants. Some might be edible or useful." Zarn pressed buttons on the scanner. It beeped and showed readings. Linda watched. "Looks like some of these have high nutrient values." "Good find." Zarn pointed to a glowing plant. "What is this?" Linda knelt. She gently touched the plant's leaf. It felt warm. She looked at the scanner. Thermal response. "It stores heat. It could help in cold areas." Zarn's eyes shone. That's amazing." They gathered samples in small kits and returned to camp. The sun climbed high in the sky, but the ash still muted its heat. Back at camp, Linda and Zarn unloaded the samples. Linda handed the kits to a botanist who examined them. The botanist smiled. "This will help our food stock and gear." Zarn felt useful again. Linda stretched. "Time for lunch." She led Zarn to the mess tent. Inside, a long table held plates of food. Humans sat and ate. Some looked at Zarn curiously. Linda guided Zarn to a seat beside Marcus. He sat and served Zarn a plate of stew and bread. Zarn took a bite. The stew tasted rich and warm. He closed his eyes and chewed slowly. Marcus spoke. "How do you like human food?" Zarn smiled. "I like it." Marcus laughed. "That's good." He took another bite. Across the table, the scar-faced soldier watched Zarn eat. He frowned again, then turned back to his meal. After lunch, Zarn and Linda walked to the camp's outer edge. There, a large shuttle waited on a landing pad. Soldiers climbed aboard. Linda checked her watch. "We leave in an hour." Zarn looked at the shuttle. Its hatch was open, and stairs led inside. "My job is to scout ahead," Linda said. "You can stay here or come with me." Zarn thought of home. He thought of the camp and the people who helped him. He looked up at Linda. "I want to come." "With you," Linda nodded. "Okay, but you must stay close." They climbed the stairs together and entered the shuttle. Inside, the air hummed with engines. Seats lined the walls, and windows showed the ash-fallen landscape outside. Linda secured Zarn in a seat. She buckled her own harness and checked the controls. Zarn's heart pounded. He had never flown before. The engines roared, and the shuttle lifted. The ground fell away. Zarn peered through the window and saw the camp shrinking below. The shuttle leveled and headed toward a dark crater. The walls were steep, and strange structures dotted its floor. Linda spoke into her communicator. Zarn did not understand the words but saw others respond. The shuttle descended and landed softly. The ramp lowered with a hiss. "We're here," Linda said. She unbuckled and stood. "Come on." Zarn followed her down the ramp. He felt the hard metal beneath his feet. A team of soldiers emerged behind them. They walked toward a cluster of rocky outcrops. Zarn stepped close to Linda. He felt a thrill of adventure. They reached the rocks. Linda held up a scanning device. "2 readings here," she said. "Be careful." Zarn saw shadows move between the rocks. He froze. A small creature with 4 legs and glowing eyes emerged. It sniffed the air and hissed. The soldiers raised their weapons. Zarn's heart pounded. Linda knelt and spoke softly to the creature. She held out her hand. The creature's eyes narrowed. Zarn watched, amazed. The creature sniffed Linda's hand and then relaxed. It licked her palm. Linda smiled. It's friendly. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Zar knelt and reached out. The creature sniffed Zarn's hand. Zarn felt warmth. He petted the creature's head. The creature purred. Linda stood. We should move on. Zarn climbed back up the rump as the shuttle rose. He watched the creature fade below. Inside, Linda placed a hand on Zarn's shoulder. You did well. Zarn smiled. The shuttle flew back to camp. Zarn looked out the window and thought of all he had seen. He felt a sense of belonging. He was not just a survivor. He was part of this team. Linda's voice came through the speaker. Approaching camp. Zarn's heart leaped as the camp came into view. The banner, the tents, the glowing lights all welcome him home. He turned to Linda. Thank you, Linda nodded. You're one of us now, Zarn smiled and watched the world below. He no longer feared humans. He had found a place where he belonged. A week passed since Zarn's arrival at the camp. Every day felt bright with hope. The ash had settled and sunlight peeked through the gray sky. Zarn's legs grew stronger and he walked without trembling. Linda found Zarn reading from a human datapad in the mess tent. He tried hard to learn their language. Words appeared on the screen and Zarn pointed at symbols. Can you read this? Linda asked. Zarn nodded uncertainly. I know some words. Linda smiled. You're doing well. Zarn turned the pad around. He paused at a word. Family. He thought of his parents and the life he lost. Linda sat beside him. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Zarn looked at her. She spoke softly. Here, family is more than blood. It's people who care for you. Zarn blinked. He remembered Maya, Rosa, and the soldiers. They all cared for him. He nodded slowly. A small smile spread across his face. Later, Zarn followed Linda to the camp's garden dome. Inside, plants grew in neat rows. Green leaves reached for light from the dome's panels. Welcome to our greenhouse, Linda said. Zarn's eyes widened. He saw rows of vegetables and flowering vines. In the center, a small tree bore bright fruit. How do these grow? Zarn asked, touching a leaf. A botanist named Kara knelt nearby. She smiled, with care and water and love. Zarn watched Kara prune a vine. She gently trimmed dead leaves. You want to try? She asked. Zarn nodded. Kara handed him small scissors. He carefully cut a dead branch. Kara praised him. Good job. Zarn felt proud. He helped Kara water plants and collect ripe fruit. The dome smelled fresh and sweet. Outside, soldiers practiced drills. Zarn listened to the rhythm of commands. He wondered what it was like to fight like them. That night, around a fire pit, Linda gathered Zarn and other children. Maya sat beside. Zarn, holding his hand. Linda produced a holopad and played a story. The light from the pad danced on their faces. The tale of the Starlight Shield. A hero defends his world from darkness. Zarn leaned forward. He listened as the hero overcame fear. When the story ended, Zarn felt brave. He looked at the stars above the dome. Can I be brave like him? He asked Linda. Linda nodded. You already are. Zarn smiled and closed his eyes. The fire crackled. A knock came at the dome's door. Marcus entered with urgent news. Captain Davis, he said. Sensors detect movement near the ridge. Linda stood. She nodded to Zarn. Stay here. I will return. Zarn's heart pounded. He watched Linda hurry away. Silence fell over the dome. Children looked frightened. Maya squeezed Zarn's hand. He will be safe. Zarn nodded, but fear touched his heart. Outside, Linda led a patrol up a rocky ridge. Zarn watched from behind a thick glass panel. Through the window, Zarn saw figures moving. Smaller than humans, with gray skin and sharp claws, Zarn gasped. He thought of the attack that killed his family. But these creatures seemed curious, not hostile. The creatures sniffed the air and stared at the dome. Linda raised her hand. She knelt and offered peace. The creatures tilted their heads. One creature stepped forward and touched Linda's glove. It hissed softly. Linda spoke into her radio. Soon other soldiers approached. The creatures backed away slowly. Linda and the soldiers returned to camp. Linda entered the dome. She looked at Zarn. "You were right," she said softly. "Not all creatures want to harm." Zarn felt relief. Linda gathered everyone. She explained the encounter. "These Graken are curious. They likely lost their homes too." Zarn thought of his planet. He felt sadness and understanding. Kara stepped forward. "We can help them. Share food." The group nodded. Plans formed quickly. By morning, humans and Graken met at the ridge. Zarn watched from the rover. He held a crate of fruit from the greenhouse. He stepped forward and offered the crate to a Graken child. The Graken child sniffed and ate a strawberry. Its eyes widened. Zarn smiled. Linda approached a Graken elder. They spoke in soft tones. Zarn realized that friendship could grow between different kinds. That night, around the fire pit, Zarn told the story of his first trial with Graken. Children listened wide-eyed. Zarn finished. "And I learned that fear can become friendship." Maya hugged him. "You are my hero." Zarn looked at Linda. She nodded proudly. He whispered to himself, "Family. Under the stars." Zarn knew he had found his place in this new world. Zarn woke to the sound of alarms and shouted voices. His heart raced as he sat up. The camp around him was alive with movement. People ran past the tents, carrying weapons and supplies. Linda's voice came through the tent flap. "Zarn, get up!" she called. "We are under attack." Zarn's mouth went dry. He scrambled out of bed and ran to Linda. She grabbed his hand and pulled him outside, all around. Humans stood ready with rifles and shields. Dust and ash swirled as footsteps pounded. The sky was dark with smoke. Zarn's small legs shook. He tried to pull away, but Linda held him tight. "Stay close," she said. They ran to a barricade of crates and sandbags. Behind it, soldiers took their positions. Arn crouched behind a crate. His eyes darted. He saw figures emerging from the smoke. A group of raiders, humans dressed in ragged armor, charged toward the camp. Their weapons looked crude but deadly. One raider spotted Zarn and raised his gun. Zarn froze. Linda saw the raider aim. She shouted, "No!" and pushed Zarn down behind the crate. A shot rang out. The raider fell back, clutching his shoulder. Linda stood and fired her rifle. Zarn's ears rang. He pressed his hands to his ears. He wanted to cry, but he was too scared. More raiders approached. The soldiers fired warning shots into the ground. Linda yelled orders, "Hold the line!" Zarn watched as soldiers and raiders clashed. Dust flew. Shouts and gunfire filled the air. Suddenly, a raider broke through the sandbags. He sprinted toward Zarn's hiding spot. Zarn's heart pounded. He watched as the raider raised his weapon. Linda saw the raider and ran forward. She took a position in front of Zarn and fired. The raider collapsed. Linda turned to Zarn. Her face was fierce. She grabbed his hand and pulled him to her side. Zarn's breathing was fast. He looked at Linda's weapon, then at her eyes. He felt safe. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Finally, the raiders retreated toward the smoke. Silence fell over the camp. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Many lay wounded. The ground was torn up. Linda led Zarn to a safe area near the tents. She knelt and checked his face. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly. Zarn shook his head. He felt numb. Marcus approached, carrying a medkit. He knelt beside Linda and Zarn. "We lost some good people," Marcus said, "but we held them off." Linda nodded. Her eyes were sad. Zarn looked at the camp. He saw wounded soldiers being treated. He saw destroyed supplies. He realized how brave Linda and the soldiers were. They fought to protect him and the camp. Linda stood. She held out her hand. "Tio Zarn." "Come," she said. "Let's help." Zarn hesitated, then took her hand. They walked to a pile of damaged gear. Zarn bent down and picked up a broken lantern. Its glass was cracked. Linda handed him a new glass pane. "Can you fit this?" she asked. Zar nodded and took the glass. He pressed it into the lantern's frame. It fit neatly. Linda lit a flame and placed it inside. The lantern glowed. "Good work," Linda said. Zarn's chest swelled with pride. They moved to a field where wounded soldiers lay on stretchers. A nurse asked Linda for help. "Captain Davis, can you guide the stretcher?" Linda nodded and took the handles. Zarn followed and carried a small supply bag. They carried the wounded into the medical tent. Inside, nurses treated wounds. Zarn watched a nurse clean a soldier's cut. He remembered the wound on his own leg. He knelt and gently pressed a clean cloth on the soldier's arm. The soldier opened his eyes. He looked at Zarn and smiled weakly. "Thank you, young one," he said. Zarn smiled back. After they finished, Linda and Zarn stepped outside. The sun was setting. The sky glowed red and gold. Zarn felt tired. His legs ached. Linda knelt before him. "You were brave today," she said. Zarn looked at her. "I was scared," Linda nodded. "Fear does not make you weak. It makes you strong when you push through it." Zarn held her hand. They walked toward the mess tent. Inside, a hot meal waited for the survivors. Zarn sat beside Linda. He took a bite of soup. The warmth spread through him. Marcus raised a glass. "To courage and to our youngest helper." Soldiers cheered. Zarn blushed. He looked at Linda. She smiled proudly. After dinner, Zarn stepped outside. The camp was quiet now. Fires burned in lanterns. He walked to the hill where he and Linda once collected plants. He sat on a rock and looked at the stars. He thought of his planet and his parents. He thought of how far he had come. He was no longer alone. Linda joined him. She sat quietly. They watched the sky. Zarn whispered, "Thank you for saving me." Linda put an arm around him. "I will always protect you." Zarn closed his eyes. He felt safe. He knew that together they could face anything. Zarn woke early to the gentle glow of lanterns still burning near the tents. The camp was quiet, save for the soft rustle of wind through metal structures. He stretched and slipped from his bed. His leg still ached from the wound, but it throbbed. Only slightly now. He touched the bandage and felt a small wave of relief. Outside, Linda stood by the banner, looking toward the horizon. She wore her uniform and held a datapad. When she saw Zarn, she smiled warmly. "Good morning, Zarn," she said. "Good morning," Zarn replied. He climbed onto a crate beside her. Linda tapped her pad. "We have a special ceremony today. A new arrival will join our camp. I thought you'd like to see it." She paused and studied the sky. "It's almost time," Zarn nodded. He felt curious. He wondered who would come. They walked together to the center of the camp. Many soldiers and settlers gathered around a raised platform. Banners and flags danced in the light breeze. Marcus greeted them and pointed to seats of honor. Linda led Zarn to a spot near the front. Zarn sat on a low crate. He watched as people took their places. A hatch opened on a large transport shuttle. A figure stepped out. She wore a long cloak that covered most of her body. She moved slowly, leaning on a staff. Her hood cast a shadow across her face. The crowd fell silent. Linda stood. She raised her hand and spoke into her communicator. After a moment, she turned back to the crowd. "This is Eldra, an elder from the Graken we met. She comes seeking refuge and alliance." Eldra lowered her hood. Zarn saw her pale skin and bright silver eyes. They glowed softly. Eldra's voice was calm and clear. "Humans helped my people when we were lost. Now I offer my people's loyalty in return." The camp cheered. Zarn felt a warm glow. The Graken were joining their family. Eldr approached the platform. Linda and Marcus stood beside her. Eldra raised her staff and tapped it on the ground. "By the laws of the stars," she intoned, "we share blood in our hearts. We stand together against any threat." Zarn felt pride. He stood and watched the ceremony. When Eldra spoke again, she gestured toward Zarn. "And this brave young one reminds us that trust can unite even the smallest of us." She smiled at Zarn. Blushed. After the ceremony, the crowd drifted away. Zarn followed Linda to the mess tent. Soldiers lined up for meals. Maya waved at him. "Eldra is kind," Maya said. "I want to learn her stories." Zarn nodded. "Me too." At the table, Eldra sat with Linda and Zarn. She told tales of silver forests and crystal rivers on her world. Zarn listened, enthralled. Later that day, Linda led Zarn to a workshop tent. Inside, engineers worked on a new rover. Its frame gleamed. "We want to make a memorial for those we lost," Linda said. "And we'll name it after Zarn's homeworld." She pointed to a blank panel on the rover's side. Zarn looked surprised. "Will you help me paint the name?" Linda asked. Zarn nodded. He took a brush and dipped it in dark paint. He wrote 2 words. "Taura's Hope." Taura was Zarn's home planet. Linda smiled. "Taura's Hope." Zarn felt tears come to his eyes. Linda placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your world lives on in our hearts." She squeezed gently. That night, Zarn sat outside with Maya and Rosa. They watched the stars. Maya pointed. "See that bright one? That's the star of Taura." She smiled at Zarn and whispered, "Thank you, Maya." He looked to the sky. He thought of his parents. He thought of the camp that saved him. He closed his eyes and imagined their voices in the wind. Then he opened his eyes and saw Linda approaching with a small package. "This is for you," she said. Inside was a simple doll made of cloth. With green skin and bright eyes like Zarn's, it wore a tiny uniform. Zarn held it close. "It's me," he said softly. Linda knelt beside him. "Now you have something of your own," she smiled. Zarn hugged the doll. "I will keep it always," Linda stood. "Tomorrow we begin a journey to the next world. You and I will travel together?" She reached out her hand. Zarn rose and took it. Together, they looked at the horizon where distant moons glowed under the ash-gray sky. Zarn felt hope and courage. He was no longer an orphan. He was part of a family that spanned worlds, and so, under the twin moons of this battered planet, Zarn and Linda set their sights on the stars, ready for the adventures to come.